Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance, where people have conformed to the letter but not the spirit of a request. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some malicious compliance. But my son is an accountant and he knows better than you. Had this wonderful encounter with this lady today. She needed a form signed so she could receive a payout from an investment. That's cool, I work in customer service for a bank, so happy to help and see what I can do for her. She presents me with said form and says I have to sign to say I've witnessed her signature. Okay, no big. You are a customer with the bank and have been for years, so let's read the form and then I'm happy to sign. Now, I noticed this form asks for a signature from a bank official only if being signed from outside the country. If being signed in the country, it can only be witnessed by anyone registered to vote as long as they provide their address. I try pointing this out to her, and that's when all hell breaks loose. You will sign this for me. I have wasted my whole day making the trip here and paying for parking. It says bank official, so sign it. I'm afraid I can't as a bank official, because that's not what it needs. That is what it needs. I have a son who is an accountant, and he's told me to bring it here and have you sign it. Are you telling me I wasted my money? Not at all. If you know any of us personally, we can sign it for you, because we need to give out personal information to witness it. Why would I know any of you? I mean as a friend. Why would I be friends with someone who works in a bank? I have nothing nice to say to this, so I say nothing at all, which didn't help the situation. My son is an accountant, and he has told me what to do. I need you to do this for me. If you won't, then I'll make a complaint. I can't do it as a bank official, ma'am, but... The lady, now screeching, but my son is an accountant, and he knows these things, and you have to sign it for me. I don't know any of you, but I have been coming here for 30 years, and demand you do this for me. Okay, if I can have the form back, I'll talk to my colleagues and see if there's anything... No, I only want you to sign it for me. I want your name and the manager's so I can complain about how you're refusing to help me. I need this money. Sign the darn form. That would involve me giving you my personal information, which I'm not allowed. Then what good are you? And with that, she storms out of the branch after grabbing the paper from my hand. I shake it off and carry on with my day. Turns out she called the branch about 10 minutes after she left, upset with how unhelpful I'd been. My higher-up spoke to her and invited her back in to sit with him personally, to see what could have been done. Lady comes back, looks down her nose at me as she walks past into an office with my colleague. Last I saw of her, thank heavens. Now here's the malicious compliance. Since she hadn't been willing to listen to me explain the form, I had meticulously briefed my colleague on the form when he told me she was coming back. I made sure he knew that to complete it properly, he would have to give out his personal info and not sign it off as a bank official. I really hoped that she would listen to him and understand what she had to do next. Turns out, nope. All that mattered to her was a signature that her son, the accountant, had told her she needed. My colleague tried to explain and gave her the option of going away and doing it correctly, but she was having none of it and insisted he do it. So he did, and with it invalidated the form she is trying to use to get her money. It'll set the whole process back about a month or more. They will get the form, see it's done incorrectly, and will have to get new forms out to her in the post. Not a massive setback, but if you will insist on us doing it the wrong way... I guarantee she'll come back in like a month's time with the same thing, with the same attempt again, because her accountant's son said it's the right thing to do. Discipline for not following procedure. I work in a warehouse order picking. I recently had 2 weeks off as I had pulled a muscle in my back, and considering the heavy lifting involved, my GP advised me to take 2 weeks off. I phoned the company absence line 12 times over the 14 days, when in all honesty, we are only supposed to update for the first 5. I return to work, have a return to work meeting where they go through why you're off, and if you're fit to return, and also ask did you make contact. Everything was fine, note was given in, I showed my call logs of when I contacted, easy. So the next day, my new line manager pulls me in for an investigation over conduct, saying I'd failed to follow the absence process. I go through it all, show the call logs, etc, and I'm thinking it's fine. Later on, I get given a letter telling me it's getting escalated to a disciplinary meeting the next day with the same line manager. Obviously, I was confused. I go into the meeting knowing that the manager that did the investigation can't hold the disciplinary as it classes as prejudged, which is failing to follow procedure. He didn't provide me with the notes from the investigation, he didn't give me 24 hours notice, and again, I went above and beyond. So after the meeting started with him and another manager in taking notes, I brought this to his attention, and he says he didn't know. The other manager says I'm right and is smirking, so it gets thrown out. The next one, I get pulled in again, saying that now they're classing that as a further investigation, and I'm also being investigated for finishing just over a minute before I was supposed to. Every day in the 5 years I've worked here, I've turned up early to get my equipment ready, started the second it hits the time to start, and overachieved substantially on my rate. So malicious compliance kicks in. I've now been following every line and letter of procedure, only getting my equipment ready after the shift has started, which means all the trucks from my department have gone and I have to wander around looking for a truck. All health and safety is being followed, timekeeping is accurate to the second, and I'm doing everything as it originally showed when training, and I'm 10% under the targeted rate almost every day. The line manager pulls me up about my underperformance, and I asked if he wants to send the trainer with me to see how I could improve. Trainer follows me for the shift, laughs to me and the manager, and says I'm doing everything perfectly to procedure. I'm currently waiting on my disciplinary over not following procedure, and still haven't been given proper paperwork and evidence to defend myself with when it eventually happens. And I'm still following every letter of procedure. To me, that story sounded like the line manager doesn't like this guy personally, like he's got it in for him just on a one-to-one basis. I feel like that's workplace bullying or something. He could get done for that. I can't work while being clocked out? Okay, fine with me. Before I start, there are a couple of things I would like to say before getting into it. The first is that I do not want to paint this situation to paint my old job in a negative light. It was a great place to work, and I only had to leave due to circumstances mostly unrelated to this. I miss working there, even though I'm in a better situation now. The second is that there is some background information I have to explain, as I was in an unorthodox position. I used to work at a private school doing a few different part-time jobs under different departments. I was athletic director, AD, long-term substitute, and also gym leader, which basically meant I watched the gym in the evenings for residential students during the week. We were a statewide school, so about a third of the students stayed on campus as they either lived too far away to take the bus every day or just needed extra assistance before and after school hours. My first year, I was just the gym leader, while subbing every now and again. But my second year is when they offered me the long-term sub gig and the athletic director job. This is when the malicious compliance started. The summer before my second year, HR offered me the sub job and the athletic director job, and we discussed the logistics. Basically, I was still considered part-time, and because these positions were under 3 different departments, I would clock in and out depending on the job. Subbing was under education, AD was under athletics, and gym leader was under recreation. HR and I agreed that my day would basically go like this. Clock in from 8 AM to 3 PM for subbing, clock in from 3 PM to 5 PM for AD, and then clock in from 5:30 to 8 PM for gym leader. This happened Monday through Thursday, and Friday I would just sub and go home at 3. A week into the school year, I get an email from the person in charge of payroll, saying I had to clock out from 11:30 AM to 12 PM for lunch, and I could no longer work from 3 to 5 as AD. I responded by saying I understood about lunch, but why do I need to clock out for AD work? That time was best for me to do everything for that job. They said that usually the AD was a stipend position for full-time positions, but when HR decided that I could clock in, they thought it would even out to the usual stipend. However, once payroll started checking my timesheet, they realized it would actually be a little more than the usual stipend, and that I had to go back to the stipend, which I would get at the end of the school year. I thought this was unfair as I discussed with HR the logistics, and it was an oversight on their part, and now I was going to basically lose 16 hours of pay a week. Being part-time, I couldn't afford to wait until the end of the year to get that money. When HR got involved, they immediately sided with payroll. I was no longer allowed to clock in as AD. All this happened through email. Before I accepted defeat, I asked when I was supposed to do my AD work now. They said while I could do that while I was on the clock, but I shouldn't work if not clocked in. Okay then. The following week, I would clock out for lunch from 11:30 to 12, and no longer clock in from 3 to 5. However, I would also not do any work-related jobs during this time. If people asked to meet to discuss anything, I would specifically say not during these times. I would also purposely relax during these times. I would watch YouTube, eat my lunch or snack, and sometimes just walk around campus doing nothing. Anytime someone asked me to do something, I would just say when I clock back in, I'll get on it. This meant any emails or phone calls I would ignore until I clocked back in. Being athletic director, I had to meet with coaches about students' eligibility, interview for a new coach, put in order forms for equipment, and also arrange for home meets and tournaments. The best time for teachers who coach to do this was when school ended at 3, but guess what? I wasn't available, and I had emails to prove it. After this week of everyone basically revolving around my schedule, enough people complained to HR and payroll that we came to a compromise. I still clocked out from 11:30 to 12 for lunch, but was allowed to clock back in from 3 to 5 as AD. They had to lower my hourly wage for those hours so it matched the stipend, but it was still enough for me, and I didn't have to wait until the end of the year. Also, I could now arrange meetings and interviews that worked for everyone. I still watched YouTube during my lunch break though. Jeez, this guy worked from 8 AM to 8 PM and he was part-time. That sounds like a full-time job to me, I don't know. You want all the no's, okay. So I spent the last 5 years fighting for disability. It was caused by about 20 years of abuse, is incurable, and pretty debilitating. Meds my doctors, we're talking 10 plus doctors and about 40 different meds, have me taking, keep me able to cook, walk and wash myself. Most days. This I'm grateful for. However, my state does not agree that it is an issue. Fine. So no more background. Year 5, I finally got hearing. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a lawyer. Tried for 6+ months but just kept getting rejected. I swear, these people are automatons. Hearing is in another state, but for some reason the judge was at his office in our state and decided to do teleconference. My wife and I still don't understand the logic of this. Well, I studied to be a lawyer once upon a time, so I took control of it and got that 10-minute hearing to go on for about 1.5 hours. I just wanted him to have a clear picture with all the facts. 6 months later, I get a letter requesting my therapist's notes for the last 6 months. They had them all from the previous years, but now they wanted those too. Anyone who's been to a therapy can understand just how big of a request this is. Okay, so at my next session, I relayed this request to my therapist. She knows me pretty well by this point and can tell I have an idea. I requested that they get any and all pertinent information so that there is no confusion. Now she sees where I'm going with this. She asks me to stop by the next day to pick them up. So I show up and pick up the notes, take them directly to the post office with a letter explaining what they are and what date they were sent them out priority. I send out a large-sized postbox with 400 pages of notes. Did I win? No. Regardless of my tracking number saying otherwise, they claim they didn't receive them until a full week after the deadline. Do I know this is bull? Yes. Is there anything I can do about it? Not really. I'd try again honestly, but I'm real sick of this dance. Still, it was a small victory and I'm happy about it. That just sucks that you can't get accepted and no lawyer will take you. I don't even know what advice I could give right there because I know nothing about it, but I really hope that they come to like an agreement or something. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you very soon.